Hello, everybody. Let's talk about immersive audio. Today, specifically, we're going to cover Eclipsa Audio. It's the brand name for new open source immersive audio format. And we'll talk about some plugins that we at ACX have developed in collaboration and with the sponsorship of Google. Your host today, my name is Mikko Peltola. I'm a co-founder and COO at ACX. And I have with me today Brandon Crawford, our CTO. Welcome, Brandon.
Thanks for having me, Mikko.
Absolutely. So let's start looking into the immersive sound. What is it to create truly 3D audio or immersive audio? We're not talking about mono where there's like one audio source. We're not talking about stereo where you distinguish between left and right. What we're talking about immersive audio where the soundscape can go above you, behind you, immerse you, get all around the listener. And these tools that we are developing, they are free for AX and VST plugins, providing seamless, intuitive, and high performance audio editing. Let's think about this from the creators and consumers perspective. Often the problem with these like more advanced formats is that the creative intent, whatever the professional creator or hobbyist YouTuber, whoever is creating, does not fully translate to the experience of the consumer. So while the audio is created, it gets packed, and then the devices need to interpret how to play the audio, and it's not the true creative intent doesn't translate to the consumer. But in this case, we can truly talk about what you hear is what you get. That is the experience with the Eclipsa audio. And then finally, it's open and free. So this is an open source project, and whatever we produce is available under a royalty-free license from AOMedia. Now, anybody can make these claims. So who are these AOMedia guys? Why should I trust this initiative? So let's take a look at the AOMedia or Alliance for Open Media. And if you take a look at the logos on the right-hand side, you can see that they are really a group of leading technology companies. And these are just the founding members. There are many more companies behind this AOMedia as well. And if you look closer, you realize that there are players who are big producers of audio and then also device manufacturers. And you all, of course, need all of these guys to play together so that we can have an ecosystem. We can get something like a new format coming through. So these guys are working together to develop a next generation media technology, and they have had some success before. So the same organization is behind the AV1 video codec, which is the leader for the future streaming, if you are aware of with them. Now, what has AOMedia done? They have specified something called immersive audio model and formats. Yeah, I know it's a mouthful, but this is built both for creators of the audio and then also for the platforms. Let's look at firstly from the creator's perspective. So it supports both ambisonics and channel-based audio, or if you want to go crazy and you want to mix them, that's supported as well. It's content and format agnostic. So it doesn't matter if you're working in a streaming project, if you do mobile, gaming, VR, or traditional media, it's all supported here. And then the second aspect, the platform. So this is platform ready. We have some big guys like Samsung and Google behind this. Samsung already earlier this year announced that all of their 2025 TVs and soundbars are already supporting IMF. And Google will support the playback on YouTube, Chrome, and Android. And the other platform manufacturers are not far behind. So now is a good time for you to start creating amazing immersive audio, and you can get tools from the eclipsaapp.com. Let's take a look at how we can get started with these Eclipsa audio plugins. Firstly, system requirements. It's currently available for Avid Pro Tools with other DAWs following soon. The system requirements, you need to have a Mac OS computer and one that is running on Apple Silicon. That means the M1 chip introduced 2020 or later. For the installation process, go to the eclipseapp.com. We have a QR code here. You can save the URL to your browser, and that's where you have the installation package, instructions, and more. Let's talk about the setup of the Eclipsa audio plugins. And at this point, I'm going to hand over to Brandon, our CTO, and he can take this forward. Go ahead, Brandon.
Thanks, Mikko. So let's talk a little bit about the IMF file format. When we talk about Eclipsa audio playback, what we're really talking about is the capability to play back these IMF audio files. Here's an example IMF audio file, and as you can see, it's made up of 3 separate parts. It's made up of the audio channels, audio elements, and the mix presentations. At the lowest level, these audio channels, audio you record is recorded to one audio channel, and each audio channel is associated with a speaker. We can see in this middle layer the audio elements, and in this example there are 2 audio elements, the stereo audio element and the 5.1 audio element. Each audio element is associated with a speaker layout. So, for example, our stereo audio element is associated with a stereo speaker layout, and we can see that for this layout, it has audio channels for each speaker in that layout. So for our stereo audio element, it has 2 audio channels, a left and right channel associated with the left and right speakers in the stereo speaker layout. At the top level, we have our mix presentations, and each mix presentation is associated with 1 or more audio elements. During playback, a user selects a mix presentation they would like to listen to, and that mix presentation's audio elements and that audio element's constituent audio channels are played back, and that's what a user hears. By setting up the file with multiple mix presentations, a user can choose what experience they would like to have when playing back the file. Now that we sort of understand how IMF audio files are laid out, let's talk a little bit about these constituent parts. Starting with the audio elements, there are 13 basic audio elements. The basic audio elements are associated very roughly with the basic speaker layouts for playback. So we have, for example, stereo audio elements, 5.1 and 7.1 audio elements, as well as ambisonic support in our audio elements for the first, second, and third order ambisonics. By breaking the file up into audio elements, there's a few benefits. So the major one is that it makes spatializing audio in 3D space much easier. By associating each audio element with a speaker layout, we can more accurately place audio in 3D space by associating it with specific speakers or associating it with a specific point and specific loudnesses on different speakers in the speaker layout. This helps contribute to the what you hear is what you get playback you're going to experience when playing back an IMF audio file. This is because you're basically recording audio for the specific speaker layout that your users are going to be listening to the mix on. Using different audio elements also helps us maintain a consistent layout across different playback systems. By recording against different speaker layouts, we can ensure that when playback is done on stereo systems or 5.1 systems or other speaker systems, that loudness is going to maintain consistent because we've recorded for those different layouts. Audio elements also provide us a great way to customize our mixes. As we saw in the previous example, we can use audio elements to separate our mix between, for example, vocal tracks and instrumental tracks. In this way, users can select different audio elements to play back to customize their experience. Finally, audio elements provide a great way to encode our audio. This is because we can encode more information in our files than traditional audio formats. We can encode information about different playback layouts rather than having to provide separate files for each one of our playback layouts. Now that we understand a little bit about audio elements, let's talk about the mix presentations. IMF files support an unlimited number of mix presentations, but the plugins only support up to 5 for simplicity. Mix presentations are great because they allow us to define different ways of listening to the mix and allow users to determine and personalize their playback experience. For example, different mix presentations can contain audio recorded using different audio elements with different speaker layouts so that users can listen to audio on the speaker layout of their choosing. Similarly, as the previous example showed, we can use mix presentations to separate between different playback experiences, for example, removing instrumental or vocal tracks, so that users can choose how they want to listen to audio. By doing things this way, mix presentations allow for a more efficient delivery of audio. This is because we're only delivering the audio to the listener that they want to listen to. We don't have to stream the entire file through our audio playback devices. We can simply select what mix presentation and what audio elements make the most sense for the user. Finally, mix presentations allow a nice degree of future-proofing for recordings. Today, many people are only recording for stereo, but as these technologies become more common, support for other playback layouts and other hardware playback setups is improving. By using mix presentations, you can record for stereo today while also supporting these other playback layouts in the future. Now that we've talked about audio elements in mix presentations, let's talk a little bit about how the plugins themselves are going to work. So, the Eclipsa audio plugins are made up of two plugins, the audio element plugin and the renderer plugin. The renderer plugin is the main plugin, and this plugin is placed on your mix bus while mixing. The renderer plugin is used to configure the IMF file information, such as audio elements or mix presentations. The renderer plugin also performs the actions of rendering the audio for playback in the DAW, as well as rendering the audio out to the IMF file. The audio element plugins are used to associate individual tracks with audio elements, and as shown in this example, we can see that you can associate multiple tracks with the same audio element. We can see as well in this example that a wide 28-channel mix bus is required to communicate the audio from the audio element plugins to the renderer plugin. This is because IAMF supports up to a maximum of 28 channels of audio. Note that in a lot of DAWs, 28-channel mix buses are not available, so we have to select the largest mix bus we can that contains 28 channels. We're going to see later in the demo for Avid Pro Tools that I select the Ambisonics 5 bus because this bus contains 28 channels. We're not doing any ambisonic mixing, we're only selecting this bus because we need a bus which has 28 channels on it. Now that we have a bit of an understanding of how the plugins work, let's see what this means in practice. Here, I have a mix I've been working on, and I'd like to mix it for Eclipsa audio support. The first thing I do is go to my mix bus and increase the mix bus size to 5th order ambisonics so I can access those 28 channels. So I right-click, select Change Track Width, 5th order ambisonics.
And this is the one you mentioned that we are always going to use 5th order ambisonics even if we are doing channel-based audio.
That's correct. In some other DAWs, there's support for just 28 channels, but in Avid Pro Tools, we have to make use of this 5th order ambisonics bus.
Okay.
Once we've widened the bus, then we're able to add the renderer plugin. So we select multi-channel plugin, instrument, Eclipsa audio renderer, and we select the instance that matches the speaker layout we wish to listen to audio on. I'm going to select stereo for now because I'm on my laptop. And here we see the UI for the Eclipsa audio renderer. So from here we can configure our IAMF file. The first thing I'm going to do is select reroute and add some audio elements. There's support for 3 different IMF profiles, simple, bass, and bass enhanced, and each profile supports a different number of audio elements and channels. For now, I'm going to select bass, which supports 18 channels and 2 audio elements. I'm going to add 2 audio elements, a stereo and a 5.1. I'm going to return to the main screen, and with my audio elements created, I'm going to set up my mix presentations. Click Edit, and from this screen, I can add audio elements to my mix presentation. I'll select my stereo and my 5.1. I can also rename my mix presentation, select information about the language the mix presentation is in, and as well as add tag information. This tag information can help users select which mix presentation is right for them. For example, this mix presentation will contain drums, and so we'll add a tag to help users select this mixed presentation. We can add additional mixed presentations as well here by selecting Add Mixed Presentation, creating a new mixed presentation, and adding audio elements to it as well. Let's return to our main screen, and now we can see our mixed presentations available in the bottom right corner. We can see the two audio elements we've added to the mixed presentation, and we can switch between the two mixed presentations we've created. The mixed presentation selected here will be the mixed presentation that's played back when I press play, so this will be the mixed presentation rendered in the DAW. Now that we've set up our Eclipsa audio renderer, let's add some audio elements to our tracks. Let's close out of here, find our drums track, click Plugin, Sound Field, Eclipsa Audio Element Plugin. This brings up this screen where we can associate the track with an audio element. We select under Audio Element and select the audio element we'd like to associate this track with. I'm going to select 5.1. We can see the various loudness of the playback of this track, as well as the binaural loudness for this track. If we select Play Now, we should hear playback, and we should see the various loudnesses of this track as it's panned to 5.1. We can return to our Eclipsa audio renderer and play the track here to see the audio element being played back, as well as the audio being rendered to our speaker setup. From here, we can change our speaker setup as well. For example, I could change to 7.1 to observe how this audio will be rendered to a 7.1 speaker setup. Note that the audio is still only played back on the left and right channels, as I don't have support for more speakers. However, if you had a setup that had all these speakers in it, you would hear audio on all these speakers. Finally, solo and mute buttons are available if we want to listen to individual speakers during playback. Once we've set all these things up and we're ready to export our audio, we can select the export button here and enable the audio export. We can select a location to export our audio to. And once we're happy with this setup, we can export our audio. We can also, from these controls, choose to attach our audio file to a video file as well. If, for example, we'd extracted audio from a video file and into this mix, we could attach it back to that video file to produce an Eclipsa-compatible MP4 file. Select our format and codec and bit depth information here if we want to change it. And once we've completed this step, we can return, close the plugin, and bounce the mix using Pro Tools. Going File, Bounce Mix. We're just going to use the defaults for now. And once we select Bounce, we have to wait. And once bouncing is complete, an IMF file will be created. That concludes how to use the Eclipsa Audio Renderer and Eclipsa Audio Panner plugins.
All right, thank you, Brandon. So now we've been through the prerequisites for the installation, and we learned how to set everything up. But we have something more at stock. So we understand that there are professional users who have their setup optimized for their workflow, their creative flow. We don't want to mess with that. Whatever it's working for you, keep using that. But we also understand there are people who might not have all these tools, and we have built some panners that are optional to be used, but they are yours if you want to use our plugins to pan your audio. Could we go through that, Brandon?
Sure. If you're a professional user, what you're going to find is that when you add instances of the Eclipsa Audio Element plugin, you can use the built-in tools in Pro Tools to pan to, for example, 5.1, and you'll see those channels appear here. So when you pan out to 5.1, those 5.1 channels are going to be mapped directly to these channels in the audio element. However, If you're not familiar with how Pro Tools performs panning, no worries. We've added some internal panning controls to help you place audio elements in 3D space. To enable these panning controls, all you have to do is select this panning controls tool in the top corner and turn it on. This gives you additional controls around the position of your audio in 3D space, as well as roof controls, which we'll talk about in a bit. So, to use these position controls, all you have to do is move the audio back and forth, backward or forward, and down or up, depending on where you want to place it in 3D space. For now, let's place it on the left side in the middle. And we'll see that when we play back the audio will now be played back on the left side speakers. And we've done it. We've placed the audio in 3D space. If we return to our renderer plugin and enable track view, we can see this track and its location in 3D space. If we press play now, we can see audio played back on our track. And if we had more tracks, we would be able to see them all and how they relate to one another in 3D space. We can also use the different views here, the top, side, and rear views, to get a better sense of where the track is placed in 3D space. For example, this top-down view lets us see how the audio is placed to the left side of our listener. We can enable the speaker view to see the speaker locations in 3D space, so that we can see which speakers will have audio on them when this track is played back. Here we can see that there's no audio on this speaker here, even though it's close to our audio track. This is because our 7.1 speaker setup doesn't match our 5.1 audio element. If we reduce, now things make more sense. Let's exit out of here and return to our panned track. There's other things we can do here with our panner besides just place the object in 3D space. We can enable these roof controls to help us better move the object through 3D space. For example, this tent control allows us to move the object over the user. As we move the object forward and backward, the object sticks to the roof, moving across and over top of the user in 3D space. We can use automation to move the track in 3D space over time. If under Auto you select these boxes, and then select, for example, the Y position, Add, and we return to our track, we can view this position over time and choose to move it. For example, I could take this piece here and move it to the other side of the room. We'll then see during playback the track move across the room following the roof. Furthermore, if we open up our Eclipsa renderer again, we can see how this track moves through space over time. This concludes how to use the panning features for the Eclipsa audio element plugin.
All right, thank you, Brandon. So what we've covered in this presentation is the Eclipsa Audio, which is the brand name, the IMF, which is the format created by AOMedia, Alliance for Open Media, and the plugins that ACX have developed in collaboration with Google. For the plugins, we looked at the prerequisites, what you need to be able to play with these. We looked at how to install the system so that you can export IMF files and open this great world of immersive audio. And then we have the optional element, which is the basic banners. So if you don't have a banner system of your choice, you can get started with the basic banners that we provided. We hope that this has been informational for you. We hope that you're motivated to start exploring this exciting space. Just get to the eclipsaapp.com or follow this QR code, and you can install the free plugins, and you can open up the world of immersive audio for you and all your listeners. Thank you very much. Have a great day.